Hey, Dr. Long. So first I'm going to go over Cameron's project proposal and my interpretation of it. So my interpretation of Cameron's project proposal is that he has some great ideas and he thought a lot about like the do's and don'ts in study design. He recognizes that he only has students from his high school in his sample size, so he can't generalize through the whole population of people. He can really only generalize at students at his high school. I liked how he would have the same energy drink throughout his whole study to like limit any sort of distinctions that could happen from that. Some study flaws that I found were it was volunteer, so there could be bias with that, and it wasn't a random sample, so I would suggest probably like when I talk to him maybe doing a random sample of people. And there was also no control group of people, just people who would just run it, not drink the energy drink, and then run it again. So you can even see if the energy drink had an effect on it, or if it was just that they ran it twice. It was the second time of them running. So here's what I would leave for Cameron when I was writing him a little review on his paper. I would say, hey Cameron, when reviewing your project proposal, I noticed you have some great ideas. I really like how you were able to recognize the limitations of your study. Some things, however, that I would like you to consider for your revision are considering including a control group. I would also like you to think about if using volunteers as your sample is the best way. Could there be bias when you use a volunteer as your sample? And how could we eliminate the bias? So that's what I would say to Cameron. And then I looked at Austin's. So my interpretation of Austin's project proposal is that he's missing a lot of the components that a good study would have. He does not use a sample of people at all to take his basketball shots. He only does it himself, which just isn't great because then you only have one person's data and you don't have more data, and the more data you have, it's more accurate to represent a population. But he really cannot make any generalizations about a population since the sample's only him. The randomization of it, of which ball he used with each shot, was a good thought by using the coin, the flip, to decide heads or tails which ball he uses, but it still doesn't fix there being just him taking the basketball shots. The way that he set up his graph of data also was kind of confusing because he didn't include he didn't include which ball he took the shot with, so you didn't even know. His graph didn't show the data that he said he wanted to study. It just said which shot number, which really had no relevance to the study. And then what was the most concerning with his study design to me was that he did not believe his study had any limitations. Excuse me. So that was a problem because he doesn't see anything wrong with his study. So here's what I would give Austin. Here's what I would give Austin back when I was reviewing his project proposal. I would say, hey Austin, when reviewing your project proposal, you had some good thinking. Using a coin as a way to randomly determine the ball used was a good thought. However, I would consider your sample size. Are you able to make a conjecture on which ball makes more free throws on a population if only you tested it out? Repetition and using a bigger sample of people can help us to make predictions on a population better. And then when looking at your graph, are we able to tell which ball made more shots, or have we not included that in the graph? So those were just some of the questions that I would ask him and to try to guide him towards having more of a sample size and to fix his graph and stuff like that. Yeah.